My name is Rose Abigail Feldman. I am the coordinator of the All Israel database of the Israel Genealogy Research Association. I invite you to join me in a three-part series covering the period from the mid-19th century through the 20th century, dealing with Palestine, Israel, and the parts of the Mediterranean that had Jewish communities. Our collection has over 2 million records and grows monthly. The three parts of the series are the main archives in Israel, the Montefiore Censuses in the 19th century, and Jewish communities around the Mediterranean Basin. The Jewish communities in many of the countries to be mentioned here no longer exist and have very few residents at this time. Those who have left and their descendants have taken upon themselves to recreate their communities through websites, Facebook pages, museums, and archives. In some instances, the countries that no longer have these Jewish communities have taken upon themselves to develop museums. I'd like to show you a page from one of the Israeli newspapers to show you the immigration from various countries. You could see there's Algeria, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Syria, Tunisia, and Yemen. And it goes from 1948 through 2016. Overall, 750,000 Jews immigrated from these countries to Israel. And you can see it according to various spans of time. And you can imagine, or you can guess, or you even know what historical event happened at that time that would cause people to immigrate. One of the main archives for finding information about these Jewish communities is the Central Archives for the History of the Jewish People in Jerusalem, which is now under the auspices of the National Library of Israel. And you can see that it includes material from Algeria, Egypt, Lebanon, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Turkey, Iran, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Yemen, Greece, Iraq, and Syria. Now, sometimes this is genealogical material, sometimes it's a personal collection of someone who came from that country. So I can't promise you that you'll always find what you're looking for in these files. But if you want to search, you go into the National Library of Israel and you can search through their search engine and specify that you want to check in the archives what they have. An additional place to find information is the Montefiore Censuses, which I explain more about in my other lecture. And as you can see, many people were born in the countries around Palestine at that time. Some were born in Algeria, Egypt, Gibraltar, Greece, India, Iraq, Iran, Italy, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, North Africa, Portugal, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Tunisia, Turkey, and Yemen. And this is the reason why this is such an important website for those looking for their ancestors in Israel and Palestine in the 19th century. And an additional place for that should be searched is the Yad Yitzhak Ben Tzvi Institute. The Ben Tzvi Institute of Yad Ben Tzvi and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem was founded by Yitzhak Ben Tzvi in 1947. For the purpose of studying documents, manuscripts, and printed material relating to the history, communal life, and culture of the Jewish communities under Islam and in other countries of the Middle East and Asia. for initiating and supporting research on these subjects and for publishing monographs and texts reflecting the history and cultural activity of these communities. The Institute's library has a rich collection of manuscripts and rare books. And I have to mention that Yitzhak Ben-Zvi was the second president of Israel, and he started his research in the 1920s and possibly even before that. An important place to check for information about your families is the Historical Jewish Press website of the National Library. Now, they have many sections, but the two sections that would probably interest you the most are the Jewish Press in Arab lands and the Ladino Press. The Ladino Press includes newspapers that are not in Hebrew, not in English, but in Ladino, which is a language just like Yiddish is a language, but it is found among the Jews around the Mediterranean. An important website is the website called Svartic Gen by Jeff Malka. Jeff Malka wrote a book called The Svartic Genealogy, Discovering Your Svartic Ancestors and Their World. This was the first book that was written as a guide to researching Sephardic ancestors. If you don't know what the term Sephardic means, it actually means those that came from Sfarad or from Spain, referring to the exile of the Jews from Spain 500 years ago. And this website has a number of databases available on it, and it's worthwhile checking out to see if you can find something on this website. You can also check out in the Jewish Gen website, and you'll see that they also now have a Sephardic section, which contains all sorts of information. And you have to remember that some of the Sephardic, some of those that left Spain went to Europe and didn't go to Turkey and to the North Africa. So you have to really throw your net wide to research your ancestors. A special website is the website of the Association Internationale Nebi Daniel. It's named after a synagogue in Alexandria. And they are now expanding their website to include material about Cairo. Today, there are less than 50 Jews residing permanently in Cairo and Alexandria, where at one time they had over 5,000 living in Alexandria alone. In Israel, or I should actually say in Jerusalem, you will find the Nahon Museum of Italian Jewish Art, which is very special because they have collected items from various descendants of people from the Jewish community in Italy. A very interesting museum and a small archive is the Babylonian Jewish Heritage Center in Or Yehuda. And they have a new website up, which is quite fantastic. And you can see there are various parts to it, the exhibition, database collections, education guidance, the local channel, and they have various lectures also. Also in Or Yehuda is the Libyan Jewish Heritage Center. Again, this is a collection based on many of the items from many of the people who have left Libya. And as you can see, it has many, many pictures and many, many items. It's not as big as the Babylonian Jewelry Center, which built a fantastically large building, but it still has a lot that can be offered to the descendants of the Jews from Libya. A museum that has opened in Morocco is the Moroccan Cultural Heritage Museum. They have a foundation and they have a collection of various items from the community that prospered for hundreds of years in Morocco. A museum in New York's area, I'm not sure if it's a museum actually or a virtual museum, is the Svartic Heritage Museum. And they have collected information about the Syrian Jewish heritage in order to preserve it and to educate the future generations. Sometimes you find a specific item on the internet, like this item that has to deal with the items that were preserved, that were found in Iraq after the Gulf War and taken to the United States and have gone through the process of restoration. And there was a traveling exhibit around the United States to show the material to various communities before it was returned, or it will be returned to Iraq. There is a museum for Jewish heritage in Egypt, and they have just unveiled the Eliyahu Hanavi Synagogue in Alexandria, that it took 3 years to restore it. Here is an example of something that I found from France 24, which is a news station, I believe. And it was an item about how Paris retraces the forgotten past of Algerian Jews. After the revolution or the war in Algeria, or before it, many of the Jewish population, if they didn't come to Israel, they went to France. And here we have the Facebook page, which is a collection of Facebook pages that I found. Some of them are from museums and some of them are from the initiative of a number of people from that area. I'll start from the top left. You have the Adam Museum, the Adam Jewish Heritage Museum, the Adafina Jewish Genealogy in Morocco, Genealogy of Jewish from Morocco, the Svartic Jewish families originally expelled from Aragon, Spain, the Jewish heritage in Turkey, Jews of Iraq, Iranian Jewish culture, Jews of Egypt, and the Jewish voices of Yemen. So you can see that many people are taking the initiative and starting a Facebook and connecting with other people who have similar backgrounds and similar history. The Israel Genealogy Research Association has decided that it would also take under its auspices any information that it can collect about the Jewish communities in the Middle East and the Mediterranean Basin. The reason we're doing this is that there are a number of archives in Israel who have documents dealing with these communities, and we feel that it's important also for the descendants of the people, but for everyone to be aware of these documents and to be able to find them. I'd like to show you how many times each of these countries appear next to someone's name already in our collection. As you see, in Algeria, there's over 4,000. In Egypt, over almost 6,000. In Greece, almost 5,000. In India, 644. From Iran, 759. From Iraq, over 2,000. From Italy, over 2,000. From Lebanon, almost 5,000. Morocco has 35,000, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. From Syria, we have over 8,000. From Tunisia, 290. From Turkey, over 15,000. And from Yemen, we have, in addition to these 778, we have a list of all those who fled Yemen through Aden and immigrated to Israel in 1949 and 1950. This is a very special project that we've been doing for the last couple of years. It's based on material from the Central Archives for the History of the Jewish People. Somehow, a very smart person, I must say, somehow he managed to bring all the ledgers, or most of the ledgers, from the Alliance schools in Morocco to Israel, and they are in the Central Archives for the History of the Jewish People. And our organization has taken on the scanning of the ledgers that show those specific ledgers that show when a child entered one of the schools. And the information that can be found in these ledgers are the name of the child, the date of birth or his age, and the name of one of the parents and when he started the school. And though among there are names that repeat themselves, and they can be cousins and they can be not related, but once you have the year of birth and the date when they entered the school and in which city, you can know if it's one of your relatives or not. I'm bringing you now to our search engine where you could search for this information. The registration is free and allows you to search it. You won't be able to see the scans, but you'll be able to see if there's information available. You could do a phonetic search or an exact search. If you want to search in Hebrew and you don't have a Hebrew keyboard, we've added a virtual keyboard. Most of the names are translated from the original language of the document into a second language. If the document is in Hebrew, we transliterated it into English or into Latin letters. If the document is not in Hebrew, then we transliterated it into Hebrew. And we have a number of filters that help you narrow your focus for what you're looking. On the left-hand side, you have the type of record. Every document or every database is classified as one type. It can be a census, a donation, education, delegates or candidates in an election, local voters list, national voters list, connected with the Holocaust, immigration, military, did the people change their names, what was their occupation, maybe they participated in sports like in the Maccabiah, and vital records of birth, marriage, and death, and baptism and birth, and cemeteries. And then we have the additional filters for the top names in your search, or the top given names in your search, what localities show up for the name you're searching for, if it's a document or a database from outside of dealing with Jewish communities outside of Israel, then what country is connected to their name, what years were in the document, and what was the name of the document, or the name of the archive, or the name of the database. Thank you, and I hope you'll come and visit us and you may find your ancestors, and I wish you all good luck.